Welcome back to my channel, The Coin Spot. Today is best top 3 coins, one you want to miss. We're diving into the world of United States coins. Please don't skip this video, so let's get it started. Top 1, the 1990p Roosevelt dime, including its history, design, composition, minting numbers, varieties, condition/value issues, etc. If you want, I can also give examples of rare error versions with photos or breakdowns. Overview and historical context. The Roosevelt dime is a United States 10-cent coin, in continuous issue since 1946. It replaced the Mercury dime design. The Roosevelt design was selected to honor Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the U.S., who died in 1945. Its introduction was shortly after, in part also because Roosevelt is closely associated with the March of Dimes, an organization fighting polio. By 1990, this dime was well established. No major design change had occurred in decades, except in materials earlier. It remained the standard circulating 10-cent piece, minted at the various U.S. mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and proofs from San Francisco. Design and physical specifications. Here are the physical and design details of the 1990p Roosevelt dime. Feature detail: obverse design portrait of Franklin Delano Roosevelt facing left. To the left, Liberty. Under the portrait's neck truncation are the initials J.S. for John Sinnock, chief engraver of the U.S. Mint. Also present are "In God We Trust" and the date, 1990. The mint mark, P, for Philadelphia is included. Reverse design: a torch in the center, symbolizing liberty, flanked by an olive branch, symbol of peace, on one side and an oak branch, symbolizing strength, on the other. Around the top, United States of America. Across the bottom, one dime. Also included .e pluribus unum. Edge reeded, i.e. it has reeded grooved edge, metal composition, clad copper-nickel, that is, a sandwich construction with layers of copper and a copper-nickel alloy. Specifically, post-1965 Roosevelt dimes, including 1990, have an outer layer of 75% copper, 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. There is no silver in the standard 1990 circulation version. Weight approximately 2.268 grams. Diameter about 17.91 millimeters. Thickness about 1.35 millimeters. Minting data. The Philadelphia Mint struck 1,034,340,000 of these 1990p dimes for circulation. There are also coins from Denver and proof coins from San Francisco, 1990s, for the same year. But the P version is the regular business strike from Philadelphia. Condition, variants, or special qualities. Full band reverse. One aspect collectors look for is how clearly the bands of the torch, on the reverse, are struck. The bands are the horizontal lines on the torch. If those bands are fully separated and well defined, no blending, crisp, then the coin is said to have full bands. These are more desirable. The 1990p dime apparently often has less than perfect definition in those bands, making those that do have full bands somewhat more scarce. Proof San Francisco coins. The San Francisco Mint struck proof versions of the 1990 dime. These are special for collectors. They have mirror-like fields and generally finer strikes. Proofs sometimes come in regular clad version, also sometimes in silver, depending upon set, errors and varieties. Collectors also watch for coins with minting errors or varieties. For example, doubled die obverse. Some coins with doubled elements in the obverse, date, letters, or parts of the portrait, off-center strikes. Coins where the planchet was not perfectly aligned, so part of the design is missing. Wrong planchet errors. Highly rare, for example, if the dime was accidentally struck on a planchet meant for another coin. Value, what it's worth. The value of a 1990p Roosevelt dime depends heavily on condition, rarity of strike, full band versus normal, whether it's a proof or business strike, and whether there are minting errors. Here's a breakdown. Condition type, approximate value. Circulated average wear face value, 10 cents USD, up to around 25 cents or so for typical pieces. Uncirculated mint state, MS60 to MS64, a few dollars, $10, $30, or a bit more depending on eye appeal, etc. Higher uncirculated gem grades, MS65, MS66, MS67, etc. Much more, e.g. an MS67, very high condition, example might fetch tens of dollars. For example, at MS68 grade, one sold for $223 in a heritage auction. Proofs proof S coins will have premiums over typical circulation strike, particularly in high grade, or if silver proof. Values vary. Error/variety pieces, these can go for more, depending on how dramatic, how well documented, and the collector demand. Some have sold for more if the error is rare. But many error pieces are subject to skepticism and require certification. Note: these are approximate values in USD as of recent years. Actual value depends on coin market, demand, grading, etc. Rarity and collector notes. Even though over a billion, almost equals 1.03 billion, were made in Philadelphia in 1990, coins in top condition, N67 and N68, are relatively rare. Many circulated coins show wear, especially on high-relief parts like Roosevelt's hair, the torch bands, etc. The full band, reverse, is one sign of superior strike. Coins that preserve that detail attract collectors' attention. Proof coins, especially silver-proof variants, if one exists for this year, tend to have strong collector interest. But note, standard circulation dimes, like the 1990p, are abundant, so unless in exceptional condition or error, the price is close to modest multiples of face value market and collectability. Tip: certification by grading services. If you have a 1990p dime that looks especially sharp, especially with full bands, or proof-like, or with minimal marks, getting it graded by a reliable third party will help in establishing value. Watch for full band designation. When checking coins, compare the torch bands on the reverse. Are they deeply inked, crisp, sharp lines? If yes, that increases desirability. Error pieces need documentation. Off-center, double dies, wrong planchets. These often need strong photographic evidence and grading certification to avoid fakes or exaggerated claims. Condition matters greatly. Since so many were minted, most of the value for the common Philadelphia 1990 comes from condition. Coins with much wear or that are damaged, scratches, corrosion, poor strike, are worth only about face value or close to it. On the other hand, a coin in near-perfect state can fetch a premium. Top 2: the 1980p Roosevelt dime. Its design, history, physical specs, varieties/errors, and what collectors watch out for. If you want, I can also compare its values today versus past years, or pull up image references to help you spot features. Historical and design background. The Roosevelt dime is a U.S. 10-cent piece introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who died in 1945. It replaced the Mercury, winged Liberty Head dime. The design was by John R. Sinek, who was then chief engraver of the U.S. Mint. The obverse has a left-facing portrait of Roosevelt. The reverse features a torch, symbolizing liberty, flanked by an olive branch, peace, and an oak branch. Philadelphia mint coins traditionally did not bear a mint mark on Roosevelt dimes from 1965 until 1980. It was in 1980 that Philadelphia dimes first carried the P mint mark on the obverse, just above the date. This is an important detail for collectors, because 1980p versus earlier Philadelphia Roosevelt dimes, without mint mark, are distinguished by that mint mark physical specifications and composition. Here are the technical and physical characteristics of the 1980p Roosevelt dime. Denomination: 10 cents. Designer/engraver: John R. Sinek. Composition: copper-nickel, clad, layers of a copper-nickel alloy bonded over a pure copper core. Specifically, 91.67% copper, 8.33% nickel in the outer layers. No silver content. Weight 2.27 grams. Diameter 17.91 millimeters, sometimes rounded to 17.9 millimeters. Edge: reeded, that is, the edge has grooves. Mint mark and location: P for Philadelphia, on the obverse above the date. First year the Philadelphia Roosevelt dimes had the P mark. Mintage, circulation, and varieties. Mintage: 1980p. Approximately 735,170,000 pieces were struck in Philadelphia in 1980. There are also other 1980 Roosevelt dimes, Denver D and San Francisco S mints, but the P is a business strike, circulation coin. From Philadelphia. Key varieties: unusual types for 1980p. Some things collectors look for. Full bands: this refers to the bands on the torch, on the reverse of the coin. If those bands are fully separated, sharply struck, with clear grooves, no blending, that's more desirable. Coins with weak strikes or wear often lose those details. FB designation adds value. While not unique to 1980p, it is one variation collectors watch. Errors and mint anomalies: obverse clad layer missing or reverse clad layer missing. Occasionally, coins appear with part of the outer cladding missing, e.g. worn, or a mint error, exposing more copper. These are rare and can fetch good premiums in certain conditions. Broad-struck coins. Very rarely, coins struck without the collar die fully restricting the planchet can be broad-struck, meaning slightly wider than normal. Some 1980p coins have been listed with such anomalies. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets or blanks. Common error types in many coin series, 1980 dimes are no exception. The degree of the error, how much off-center, how large the clip, etc., strongly affects value collectability and value. Because the 1980p Roosevelt dime is fairly common in circulation, its typical value in worn condition is close to face value, 10 cents USD, unless it's in uncirculated or high-grade condition or has a desirable error/variety. Here are more detailed value ranges and what factors affect them. Condition type approximate value notes very worn circulated, grades like good, very good, fine, etc. Around 10 cents, face value, perhaps a little more if good appearance extremely fine about uncirculated slight premium over face value. Often still under $1 unless particularly pristine uncirculated mint state, MS60 MS64 range, can fetch a few dollars. Some listings show $1 $1.25 depending on the seller, condition, and whether it has sharp detail. Gem MS, MS65, MS66, etc., with full bands or special condition much higher premium. There are auction listings of MS66 or higher coins that draw serious collector interest. For instance, the 1980p with MS66 and special conditions could be worth tens of dollars. Proof coins, mint/proof sets. These are different from the business strike 1980p. The proof version from 1980s, with mint mark and proof finish, also carry collector premiums. In high mint state proof grades, perhaps around $10 $22 or more. But standard proof copies in average condition are near face value error variety anomaly pieces. These are the wild cards. A clipped planchet, off-center strike, or cladding errors can sometimes push the value significantly high, depending on rarity, condition, and collector demand. Some error pieces have sold well above standard prices, what makes 1980p special or noteworthy. First P mint mark on Roosevelt dimes. As noted, 1980 is the first year that Philadelphia Roosevelt dimes bore the P mint mark. Before 1980, Philadelphia dimes had no mint mark. This shift is important for date/mint collecting high mintage. Over 735 million pieces means many survive, making the coin common in many grades. That tends to keep values modest except for exceptional specimens. Clad composition. By 1980 all Roosevelt dimes are clad, so none have silver, except proof sets with silver later years. Collectors of precious metal content, look elsewhere. Pre-1965 dimes. Tips for identification and collecting. Here are practical tips if you have a 1980p dime and want to determine whether any are valuable, or worth holding onto, or what to look for. Check for full bands on reverse. Use good lighting and maybe a magnifier. The bands in the torch should be sharp, distinct, fully separated. If blurry or merging, it's a weaker strike. Mint state versus circulation wear, examine high points, Roosevelt's hair, cheek, torch details. Even small scratches or wear reduce value. Coins with crisp detail, no abrasion, no corrosion, look for MS rating. Inspect the mint mark. For 1980p, ensure the P above the date is there, and not worn off. Variants without mint mark are genuine for earlier years, but for 1980, P should be present for Philadelphia striking. Seek error coins, planchet/clad anomalies. If edge or surface looks unusual, missing outer layer, strange colors, incomplete designs, these could be errors. Those often need professional grading to verify authentication/certification. For coins that look exceptional, getting them slabbed/graded by a recognized grading service, PCGS, NGC, helps in establishing authenticity and value. Top 3. The 1971p Roosevelt dime, P, Philadelphia, though note, P mint mark was not used on Philadelphia dimes that year, including design, specs, varieties, mintages, value, and collector tips. If you like, I can also pull up current store listings, auction examples, historical and design context. The Roosevelt dime series started in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The design by John R. Sinek replaced the earlier Mercury, winged Liberty Head dime. The obverse features a left-facing bust of Roosevelt, with inscriptions, Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date. Below Roosevelt's neck is J.S., the initials of Sinek. The reverse displays a torch, symbolizing liberty, flanked by an olive branch, peace, and an oak branch, strength, with the legend, United States of America, E pluribus unum, and 1 dime. This basic design has persisted from 1946 to the present. By 1971, the Roosevelt dime was made in the standard clad composition. Since 1965, copper-nickel outer layers bonded to a pure copper core. There was no silver content in regular circulation strikes after 1964 specifications and physical details. Here are the technical/physical data for the 1971 Philadelphia Roosevelt dime. Feature specification. Denomination 10 cents, 1 dime. USD composition outer layers, 75% copper 25% nickel. Core, pure copper overall clad copper-nickel system. Weight 2.27 grams. Diameter 17.91 millimeters. Edge reeded, milled, edge the small grooves around the rim. Designer/engraver John R. Sinnock, obverse and reverse. His initials, J.S., appear below Roosevelt's neck mintages and varieties for 1971. 1971 Philadelphia, p. 162,690,000 coins struck at Philadelphia. These are the regular business/circulation strikes. 1971 Denver, d. 377,914,240 coins struck at Denver. 1971 San Francisco 3,220,733 coins, but those are proof coins, i.e. not intended for general circulation. Varieties special features to watch for full bands on the reverse. The torch has horizontal bands that wrap the torch handle. When these bands are crisp, fully separated, deeply incised and free of blending or weak striking, the coin is said to have full bands. This designation is more desirable and relatively rare at higher grades. The 1971 coins with full bands are significantly more valuable among collectors. Proof coins. The 1971 proof dimes are special. They have mirror-like surfaces, more careful striking, and are intended for collectors. Their value is based on condition, proof quality, and demand condition, rarity and collectability. Even though 162 million or so were made at Philadelphia, many are heavily circulated. Thus, coins in high uncirculated condition, mint state grades, MS65, MS66, MS67 etc., are much scarcer. Among those, coins with full bands are especially rare. According to grading and auction data, PCGS notes that the 1971 P. Roosevelt dime is common in many grades. But for the full bands version, there are very few examples known across all grades, often less than 2 dozen for certain designations. At very high grades, MS66, MS67, etc., whether a coin has full bands or not makes a big difference in value. The non-FB coins in those grades are much more frequent. Estimated values. Market worth. Here is a breakdown of what you might expect in value. Depending on condition or special features, these are approximate U.S. values, subject to change depending on collector demand, auction venue, and condition. Grade type. Approximate value for 1971 P. Roosevelt dime. Circulated, heavily worn, good to very good, around 10 cents, face value, to maybe $0.25 $0.50, depending on condition. Most circulated ones are worth little more than face. Better circulated grades, fine, very fine, extremely fine, a few dollars, maybe $1 $3 depending on how crisp the details are. Uncirculated/mint state, MS60, MS64, etc. More premium, perhaps $1 $3 $2.5 or more depending on luster, strike, damage etc. Higher MS grades plus full bands significantly higher. Coins in MS65 or MS66 with full bands can fetch many times more, tens of dollars, possibly more in rare examples, depending on availability. Some auction records show high-grade specimens for high premiums. Proofs. Proof strikes, if in good condition, often valued at a few dollars, perhaps $2 $5 or more, depending on whether deep mirror or gem-proof condition. These values are rough market estimates, not guaranteed. Proofs have different standards of grading and different collector interest. Why some coins are more valuable. Full bands. As mentioned, coins where the bands on the torch are sharply struck, the reverse, are more collectible. Weak strikes or worn bands reduce value. Mint state condition. Coins with no wear, original luster, free from major contact marks are much more desirable. Strike quality. Sometimes coins have weak relief, or poor center, or planchet issues. High-quality strikes are rare. Rarity in certain grades. Even though millions exist, the number of coins in top condition, MS66, MS67, is small. Those coins are fought over by collectors. Proof quality. Finish. For proof coins, visual appeal, mirror finish, lack of defects or scratches, sharp fields, etc. matter a lot. Collector considerations and tips. If you have a 1971 P. Roosevelt dime, or several, Here are things to check / how to evaluate if you might have a more valuable specimen. Check the torch bands on the reverse. Look for whether they are crisp and fully separated. Magnifier helps inspect high points like Roosevelt's cheek, hair, the edge. Reading in uncirculated coins, these should be sharp, with original luster. Look for marks, damage, scratches, discoloration, planchet flaws, or corrosion can reduce value sharply even in relatively high grades. Consider grading certification if you suspect the coin is in a high MS grade, especially with full bands. A credible third-party grading service, like PCGS NGC, can help establish authenticity and condition proof versus regular strike. Ensure you know whether your coin is a regular circulation strike, Philadelphia, no mint mark in 1971, or one of the proof coins from San Francisco. Proof coins generally have higher collector interest. Market demand and comparison. Check recent auction prices for coins in similar grades with full bands to gauge realistic value. Sometimes older price guides or dealer listings overestimate. Thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe on my channel for more videos.